A young officer died in the line of duty. Good evening to you. I'm Anita Blanton. Officer Katie Thine was killed when she was dragged by a car during a traffic stop last night. A man is now charged with homicide for her death. Officer Thine was just 24 years old. 10 on your side, Jason Marks was at an emotional press conference where Newport News Police Chief Steve Drew spoke of this tremendous loss. And Jason, a very difficult time for the whole department and community.
Yeah, absolutely, Anita. You know, we've had an overcast day and it really reflected the moon here in Newport News. Just a sobering reminder of the dangers of the job. You can see the car here for Katie Thine. Just a reminder of a life that was taken far too soon.
She had her whole life ahead of her.
Tonight, Newport News police are feeling a pain, one they haven't had to feel in 26 years.
I wish these things never had to happen.
Last night, they lost one of their own, 24-year-old Officer Katie Thine.
It was just the most awful sound.
The tragedy, which began a block from Sue Moore's home on 16th Street, finished in her front yard.
I thought the car had hit my house. It was that loud.
Chief Steve Drew says Thine and another officer were investigating drugs. They came across the smell of pot coming from a car.
The passenger was removed, and both officers were on the driver's side addressing the driver.
They tried to get Vernon Green out, but that's when police say he hit the gas, taking Thine along with him.
She was drug in the vehicle or drug outside the vehicle for about a block. The vehicle came to rest as it smashed into a tree where she was pinned between that door and that tree.
Green was arrested on the spot.
You couldn't open the driver's side door.
From her home, Moore watched as crews rushed to Thine's aid.
They were triaging the person and working on the person.
Thine was rushed to the hospital, but doctors weren't able to save her life.
I thought, well, maybe it's going to be okay because they were put in an ambulance.
Moore didn't realize she didn't survive.
I was so upset that a 24-year-old dedicated, devoted officer who had a little 2-year-old girl and was dragged.
It's a sobering reminder of the dangers officers face every day. Moore wishes it wasn't the case.
Officers should never, ever have to go through that.
And all day long, since this car has been put here, people have been dropping off cards and flowers, remembrance for the young officer. I can tell you Thines did have body camera video. Investigators are taking a look at that video right now. As for Green, he is facing several charges, including homicide, eluding, and also drug charges. He's being held inside the Newport News jail without bond. He declined our request for an on-camera interview. We're live in Newport News. Jason Marks, 10 on your side.
And our team coverage on this tragedy continues with 10 on your side, Andy Fox. Andy, as friends, family, and the police department mourn, we are learning more about Officer Katie Thine herself, someone whose smile was described as being infectious, who the chief said was deeply involved in her community.
Yeah, Anita, that's right. Katie smiled all the time. I mean, don't we like to be with people who smile and laugh all the time? Well, everyone wanted to be with Katie. Officer Katie Thine at her police graduation ceremony, June 2019. You can't hear him, but Police Chief Steve Drew says, "You ready for this?" Katie answers, "Yes, sir." Chief says, "You see that community out there? They are waiting for you to change things." And Katie says, "Yes, sir." Chief says, "I'm proud of you." Today, Chief Drew, fighting back tears, said, "Katie, we will never forget you."
Officer Thine, Katie was a true hero, and she served this community.
Katie is probably one of the best people I've ever met in my life.
Before Katie was with Chief Drew, she was with Robert Vann in the Navy. Both walked onto the USS Abraham Lincoln in June 2014 on the same day.
I hate to say the ideal sailor because she was just so energetic. She's always smiling.
Always smiling. Chief Drew said the same thing.
If you ever saw her, all she did was smile. You'd almost start to laugh at her because she was always smiling. I don't know about what, but she was always smiling.
Robert says on the beat, Katie once met up with a kid who pulled a gun on her. She was good at de-escalating tension.
She could have drawn her weapon, and it could have been a very bad day for a young kid because he had a gun. She didn't. She de-escalated it, took him into custody, and then helped him.
Robert's left to wonder whether Katie was